We will not have any minute approvals today because they're not ready, and then we will move on to, want to move on to 3A?
Yes, just one.
Move on to 3A, public hearing, consideration and action for a sign variance. You want to start it off, Drew?
Yeah. Martin's fixing my PowerPoint real quick. There we go. Says this, sign variance for the property addressed at 3785 Highway 27, Kerrville, Texas. This is the county ag barn. They're requesting a larger digital sign. So the overall sign is in compliance with the sign code. The maximum size for a digital by code is 32 square feet. They're asking for a total of 66 square feet. There's the dimensions there for you. I'll go through some of the findings here real quick. The property itself is unique in that it's located outside of the city limits on a large county-owned property. The intent of the sign code, particularly related to digital signs, is written for typical commercial businesses. Not a lot this size, and certainly not a community asset or an asset to the community such as the Youth Event Center. The request does not cause any negative impacts to the general public. The granting of the variance is not contrary to the Kerrville 2050 Comprehensive Plan. The applicant has requested the minimum necessary to fit within the sign design and to make it applicable to them for their advertising of events to the community. The variance is not inherent in the property itself, not related to any subdivision of the property, not self-imposed, does not make the property any more valuable, and does not modify or repeal any development regulations, and certainly doesn't change any zoning requirements. With that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions before or after the public hearing. Commissioner Lutz is here, present on behalf of the county as well.
You want to present?
Sure. Basically, I was going to kind of go over the reason for it. One, the current sign out there is ancient. It doesn't work consistently. And it just doesn't really meet the needs of that facility. That facility is a community facility, and we looked at pretty much what is an antler stadium. That's kind of what we modeled this after. It's a stadium. It's a sign that provides the ability to basically show the events. We have multiple events out there at single days, and it's just difficult to have it. Another thing with the problem with the current sign is it's very small, and people trying to slow down and read it is very difficult. It's dangerous. The speed limit right there is 55 miles an hour. So it is in the ETJ. We weren't positive if we should come for a variance or not. We've talked to the city. They said that it was kind of up in the air. We wanted to be good neighbors and wanted to come in, wanted to try to do it the right way. The sign that's planned will have a lot of capabilities. I know that there's concern about the Dark Skies group. It will or can have and will have the ability to be automatically dimmed at night. Additionally, the background will be kept dark as opposed to white, so it will not be a lot of reflective light. It is clearly it is a bigger sign, but the county feels that it's really necessary for the use of that facility. People that drive down that portion of Highway 27, it is a very busy facility. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of cars there at a time, and this is the information as to what's going on there. So we just think it's an important addition to it. And the other sign has to be replaced. We have to do something new. So that's kind of the reason for it. We understand the court in the past has been very supportive of the Dark Skies initiatives. I think we've supported it by resolution, and we'll do what we can on this to comply with any rules. I know the city has regulations related to that, and we'll certainly comply with any of that, even though we're in the ETJ.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Not right now, not for me anyway. Anybody have any questions? Okay. So we'll open the public hearing, and we'll go through the speakers, and then once the public hearing is done, we'll close the public hearing, and then if any of the commissioners have comments before we consider this. So Bill Rector, your name is at the top of the list, so I'm going to call you up.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to address you, Bill Rector, 705 Water Street. I read with amusement the now really concern the staff's response to this request. It reads more like the answers were supplied by the sign salesman than someone who is familiar with our Kerrville 2050 plan and is trying to follow the guidelines of that. At the start of that 2050 plan is the vision statement. And it says Kerrville will be a vibrant, welcoming, and inclusive community that respects and protects the natural environment that surrounds it, seeks to attract economic growth and development, but does so while preserving the small-town charm of the community. And I find it difficult to see how that a 6 by 11 foot electronic billboard is going to supply our small-town charm to our community. I'd like to also point out the safety aspects of this sign. This is in an area of high-speed travel, 55 miles an hour on Highway 27. There's considerable traffic in front of it. This 6 by 11 foot electronic sign will create, it's actually designed to create a distraction from the road. And that road is traveled by daily workers from James Avery Craftsman, Kildare Mountain Manufacturing, and inexperienced drivers from Our Lady of the Hills High School. This road has been in the news recently for the number of fatal traffic accidents that have occurred on it, and TxDOT is looking at ways to prevent these fatal accidents, and this sign is not going to help that. The size of electronic signs in the sign ordinance was reached through compromise with sign sellers, sign business people, and with the community. 32 square feet is not ideal. Many hoped that it would be smaller, but it was a compromise that was reached when the sign ordinance was created, and it has, I think, served our city fairly well up to this point. The requested variance is more than twice what is allowed by the current sign ordinance. There is a precedence for rejecting this variance before you today. An electronic sign salesman who's no longer in business in this community erected and sold to the Kerrville Chamber of Commerce a sign that was twice the 32 square feet. That came before council. Council rejected that variance request and turned it down. That sign, after it had been installed, was rebuilt to satisfy the 32 square foot requirement. There was a second request for an oversized sign on Loop 534 that came before council. It also was turned down because we had inexperienced drivers driving past that sign to Tybee High School, much as we'll have with this sign. I share the concerns that you will hear later today. I thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Man, that's a nasty noise.
Is this Pender? Cheryl.
Good afternoon. I'm Cheryl Pender. I am a member of the Friends, Kerr County Friends of the Night Sky group. I'm also an advocate for International Dark Skies. And so I come to you today saying, yes, updating signs that are old help update our community. Digital is the wave of the future. So I agree, it's got to be digital. The size and the glare and the impact that a larger sign in the night would have on our conservation efforts in the city of Kerrville and in the rural areas as well is of concern. Dark Skies International supports a type of EMC. They have guidelines. I would encourage, before this variance is allowed, encourage those criteria to be applied to this project. I think that there's probably a win-win, but right now it seems like the large sign with glare and posing public safety issues at night with a larger sign where people want to read that instead of following the road and our road precautions that we need to take at night is a distraction. The other item I want to point out is that the city of Kerrville has an intention to apply to be an international dark sky community. And this kind of effort at this point preempts that application process. But from what I understand from Dark Sky International, this is a detriment to the forward movement of the city of Kerrville to be accepted as an applicant to meet the criteria to be an international dark sky community. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mike Hughes.
Yeah, I am not a member of the Dark Sky Committee, but I am a private citizen who supports the Dark Sky Initiative. And I'm here in opposition to the sign because I simply don't know enough about it, how bright it would be. I know that they can be quite distracting and create a lot of ambient light. So unless I can understand better how that's not going to happen. I also will tell you this. I have a little history with sign ordinances. I was asked to create a sign ordinance for Ingram, the city of Ingram, and a historic preservation committee was the head of it. And I saw how that ordinance began to creep up and up and up, and variances were being allowed, and in the end, it just disappeared. So I'm quite concerned about variances from agreed to ordinances. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Jeff Stone.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jeff Stone. I'm a resident of Kerr County, not the city, but I am a member of the Kerr County Friends of the Night Sky and an amateur astronomer, and I'm very concerned about our currently almost dark skies. It's pretty good here, certainly compared to Houston, where I came from, but not as good as it is out in Lakey, I can tell you that. It's a lot different. And what we're talking about here is having a sign that's twice as big as the current sign, which I don't know if the current sign meets the current ordinance or not, but as Mr. Letts commented, he's here to support the community and comply with whatever ordinances are out there. And having a sign twice as big as the one that's probably not in compliance with our current ordinance anyway doesn't sound like it's doing that. Another thing that I want to mention is that item C in the staff analysis on this says that there will be no detrimental effect to the public, or something to that effect. What are the words? It says this does not cause any negative impacts, and it will not be contrary to the public interest or materially detrimental to the public welfare. Well, if you think of the dark sky, oh, there goes my phone. It's going to go for a minute and then it'll stop. Think about the dark sky. It's a shared resource. It's something that we all have, just like the river, right? And if somebody was to take something and pour it into the Guadalupe River, it affects everybody downstream, right? Well, light trespass and brightening of the sky is the same thing. You take some and you throw it up into the sky, and it lights up all the aerosols that are out there, and it makes the sky not as dark as it was, right? And that affects me as an astronomer, but it also affects the nature, trees, plants, insects, night pollinators, birds, all sorts of things. And the cumulative effect of all this stuff winds up being, instead of a relatively clean Guadalupe River, something like the river downtown in San Antonio, where everybody's dumping their stuff in it, right? And this is just another case of adding to the pollution that's in the sky. It's commonly called light pollution. I prefer the term light trespass because the light is going where it doesn't belong. Okay, now if this thing can be made to comply with the specifications that are out there of the International Dark Sky, of what we've said, as Bill said, part of the 2050 project, we want to keep the small town feel. If it can be made to do that, then okay. But just saying that there's no material injury to the public is short-sighted and myopic, in my opinion. And I think we owe it to ourselves to look at this more closely in detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce Barton.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Barton. I'm also a resident of Kerr County, not a resident of the city. And like Jeff, I'm an amateur astronomer and a member of the Kerr County Friends of the Night Sky. Kerrville has already written into outdoor lighting code the desire to qualify for recognition as an international dark sky community by Dark Sky International, which is the enabler for their authority to pass such code in the first place. I don't think that Dark Sky International would be favorably disposed to grant such a designation to a municipality that seems to grant variances to city or county-owned entities within their ETJ. My response to what the staff recommendations and analysis were is as follows. The property is located within Kerrville's ETJ. The fact that the property is not within Kerrville city limits and is owned by the county is of no significance at all to the factors that compelled the city to pass the ordinance in the first place. In this instance, semi-public use of the signage is identical to any other commercial business. There is no stated constraint limiting HCYEC to advertising of events that are strictly for the public good, nor preventing HCYEC from renting out their large EMC to third-party businesses as for-profit advertising, which would be very easy to do due to the nature of EMCs. If variance is allowed, they are doubling the allowed signage area with a corresponding brightness increase to the overall sky brightness level. Such variance is clearly contrary to the public interest and welfare. This conflicts with the city's stated purpose as enunciated in code of facilitating international dark sky community status, inasmuch as it exceeds the granting authority's recommendations for suitable lighting levels for EMCs. I have not seen any justification that a much larger EMC would be of any real benefit to HCYEC, or that the need for such benefit supersedes a similar benefit to any other commercial businesses simply because it's semi-public. In fact, there is nothing enunciated here that proves HCYEC is under any existing hardship at all. We all breathe the same air, drink the same water, and live under the same skies. The city passed a signage ordinance several years ago due to a perceived public need which continues today and becomes more important as time goes by. That public need is more than simply mitigating light trespass issues by one entity against another, although that is an important part of it. Variances to that ordinance granted for advertising purposes to entities that are owned or operated by public corporations or governments should not be granted by employing double standards. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My last speaker, I guess it's Kathleen Brinkman.
Let's see. My name is Kathleen Brinkman, 301 Junction Highway, although I'm a resident of the county. Thank you for having us here today. First of all, I wanted to say I'm not against signs. Signs aren't the problem. It's the light that emanates from the signs. And our group is not against lighting as such. We know the purposes and the benefits that come from lighting and from signage. But what we're focused on is minimizing the light trespass and the light pollution that my friends have been talking about. That's the focus. We're not here to get in the way of business. We're not here to get in the way of the event center. And we understand that there's a balance here. We just wanted the city to do what the city has committed to do through its dark sky resolution and through its commitment to keeping Kerrville skies dark. I would also point out that the signage is going to be directly across from the Loftus Observatory owned by Schreiner University. This is a very important telescope in our city, and if anything, we need to be doing more to minimize the light trespass that is happening in this area, not increase it with a sign like this. I would like to say, I don't understand from what's been submitted and discussed, I don't see why the sign as proposed is necessary. There is certainly a way to advertise events in a much smaller venue. Also, I'm very concerned about the safety issues on this. A large sign can simply have more writing. People can't comprehend a lot of writing just as they're driving by. People are going to still slow down and read it if there's a lot of content on such a sign. Also, glare. If the sign is improperly put up and there's a lot of glare or light coming into their eyes, it can take as long as 2 minutes for your eyes to readjust after having a glare event. There are deer in the weeds on the side, and everybody knows that there's deer on this road. People need to be able to see clearly as they're driving down there, especially the inexperienced drivers of the school. So I think safety has to be a big consideration here in whatever sign is constructed. The current sign seems to work well, although I understand it does need replacing. Also, the sign's positioning next to a park area is at issue. There's nothing in the application that says that the event center is willing to comply with any of the prohibitions that would make the sign more acceptable. Anything that is ultimately approved or a variance approved does need to have all of those conditions detailed so that enforcement can be made. Also, it will impact the city's ability to get the dark sky certification, I believe. As my friends have previously said, I don't think IDA is going to look favorably on our application if we start granting variances of this nature.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. That's all the speakers I have signed up, is that correct?
That's correct. This is a public hearing.
Sure, sure.
I understand a lot of the issues, and you know, I think the county would be certainly willing to put in any restrictions that people have or conditions about to comply with dark sky. I do want to, you know, mention one thing I was talking about. This is just another business. Over 50% of that use of that property is for community services, including issues by the city of Kerrville. So yes, there are commercial activities that go on out there, but it is a governmental entity and is used primarily for county and city functions. Yes, there's stock shows. Yes, we have some other weddings and things do go on out there, and they would be advertisers, motorcycle rallies, and different things. But the majority of that facility operates at a huge loss to the county at the benefit to the community of about $300,000 or $400,000 a year. So I think that's an important point. And the other question is again, it goes back to the requirement of this being here at all, and it's in the ETJ. You know, we are not certain it needs to be here. It's outside the jurisdiction of the city limits of Kerrville. We came here to try to work with the city and figure out exactly what would be best, what the city would like. We definitely have to have a new sign. We think that this sign meets the needs of the facility and basically is modeled after a sign that's currently in the city limits by Antler Stadium. And I don't see a lot of wrecks and things happening along there. The speed limit's a little bit slower on Sidney Baker, but it's not a big, you know, glare. To me, that sign is less objectionable than some of those with little light bulbs that we currently have. That's just our, you know, our thought. You know, the question, does it need to be here? Maybe that needs to be resolved and table this until and the county can just move forward with no restrictions at all if it's not required.
All right. That being said, we're going to close the public hearing at 4:22. Well, we've closed the public hearing, so I think we've gotten a gist of what everybody is thinking. So at this point, commissioners, if anybody has any comments or questions before we consider it. Abram, you have any questions or you have any comments?
Not yet.
Well, this is the time.
Well, I don't have any right now yet.
Okay. David?
Yeah, I think the size is certainly a concern. I don't know. That's just too big, I guess. I don't know.
Don?
Going to give me the microphone?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man.
I know that's a mistake, but.
Yeah, well, just is what it is. First question, do we have any authority to control the size of the sign in the extraterritorial jurisdiction?
Yes, our sign code does extend into the ETJ.
So we do have authority on the sign. That's the first one. You know, I'm not a member of Dark Sky, and I love the community and fundraising events for the youth and everything, but and I compliment everybody on either side of the issue for their civility tonight, because usually these things get heated and emotional and, you know, one thing after another, but I have a hard time comparing a 55-mile-an-hour dark, no development, you know, high-speed road with a 35-mile-an-hour sign in front of a stadium that already has stadium lights and, you know, a shopping center across the street. So If it goes to city council, I think I'd leave that off my wish list. But I just, the city has a sign ordinance. The city has turned down variances in the past. It just doesn't make any sense to me that there's a real need to grant a variance, especially out on a dark road. It's dangerous. That's all I got.
Abram? Okay. I'm going to make a few points. The first point is, to me, it's not really a question of whether we have authority in the ETJ. To me, the issue is what's best for the city of Kerrville. I was on planning and zoning when we redid the sign ordinance. We had some issues. We had people come before us. We turned down Calvary Temple Church. During that process, like Bill said, we had the Chamber of Commerce redo their sign. This is a lighted billboard. That's all this is. This is a very tall, very large lighted billboard. We went through a real extensive process to decide what's best for the city and created a sign ordinance, which I think, and I think the city thinks, is very generous, allowing 32 square feet of lighted signage. This is so far beyond what the city has decided what their standards are for a sign, that it is, to me, it's so far beyond what is reasonable. I'm not a big fan of ordinance variances anyway, and it may be good for the county, but it's not good for the city to grant an ordinance that's so far beyond what the sign ordinance says, and then have someone come up next year that builds a shopping center and says, I want a sign just like you gave the county. It puts the city, it's not fair to the residents, it's not fair to the citizens, in my opinion. I think we created a very reasonable sign ordinance. It's very generous for 32 square feet of signage. I don't know what happened when the Antler Stadium sign was done. That's really not an issue for me because that was done. I don't know how that was done. And I think we have a very reasonable sign ordinance. I think that's what the citizens wanted, is what the citizens approved, notwithstanding the dark sky issue, which I agree with. But I just think that this is so far beyond what is reasonable, in my opinion. And unless anyone else has any other comments, we can call the question.
I'll make a motion that we deny the variance.
We have a motion to deny the variance. All in favor? Second, all in favor, raise your hand. So this variance is denied. Appreciate everyone's time. I understand what the county wants to do. I don't have an issue with trying to work it. But we need to be responsible to the residents of Kerrville for what's best for them. And in this case, that's what it is. All right, we're going to move on to 3B.
Three B is a change in zoning from residential transition zoning district RT to downtown arts and culture zoning district DAC for the property addressed at 225 Shriner Street, Kerrville, Texas, lot 403, block 54, Shriner subdivision. The applicant is here, Mr. Champagne.
Basically, we just want to attempt to get a rezone for future building on the property with a zero lot line, which the DAC allows. Wally at SoFast Printing is in the DAC, so just for conformity for the neighborhood. Ultimately, that's it for future growth of the property. So pretty simple. And we plan on adding on to the back of the property, and I can't do it with the current setbacks. And what the DAC allows us with a zero lot line.
Do you have a specific use that you're in mind?
Yes, currently it's an Airbnb, and we want to add an additional property in the back of the property. For rental as well, if not for personal use for myself.
Okay. Any other questions before we open the public hearing? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to open the public hearing at 4:28. I don't have any speakers signed up to speak. If no one wishes to speak, we're gonna close the public hearing at 4:29. If there are no comments or questions or issues, we'll go ahead and call this.
I'll go through the staff report real quick.
Sure.
Current property is zoned RT. As you can see, just to the southeast is zoned DAC, the Downtown Arts and Culture. This is within the Downtown Strategic Catalyst area, so it is consistent with the Kerrville 2050 plan. As an existing development, should be no change in traffic or impact on the streets and thoroughfare system. The staff supports the request.
Any comments, guys? Okay. Looking for a motion on this change in zoning.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Motion to approve, so all in favor, raise your hand. All right. This zoning change is approved.
No comprehensive plan update, because we're about to wrap that one up next week. The next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we do have a called meeting on June 10th at 2 p.m. That'll be here in the chambers. That is to get the final presentation on the comprehensive plan update and get y'all's recommendation to City Council. And then we do have a regular scheduled meeting on July 3rd. We do have 4 cases scheduled for that agenda. Any questions?
Is it possible to Zoom that meeting?
No, unfortunately, it's not. We don't have the equipment to meet state requirements to do Zoom. It is recorded and broadcast, so you can watch it, but cannot participate.
Call you on your cell phone?
Right?
All right, if we don't have anything else, then this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.